good afternoon, Friday afternoon, November 3rd. So it's kind of funny because when we submitted this proposal for the workshop, we had received the information from the pronounce it properly. Excuse Brent. Robin, who works in vocational training, and I, who work in vocational training, we said, hey, we've got to be there. They never talk about vocational training in this thing, you know. So of course they don't talk about it. First of all, we didn't know that this was the kind of forum that we could actually participate in. And now that we've been here once, well, we're going to be back for sure.
Next year is all about talk.
So we just, we came to, I think Robin and I, in our different, like I'm from Quebec City,
I'm based here in Montreal.
Based in Montreal, but sometimes in the Gaspé.
Yeah.
So we said, oh, when's the deadline to submit? Oh, 3 days from now. Okay, so let's get this done. We submitted, and then we were very happy to have been accepted in our proposals, because all we want to do, and all I want to do, and it's my mission in life, is to talk about vocational. It's the world's best kept secret. It's an educational path that so many people could be exploring, and not just the students who are having difficulty.
Say that again.
Oh my God. Fun statistic. In Germany, 50% of their population goes through vocational or technical training.
Right, and then they start making decisions from there about their career path.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that in the province of Quebec, vocational training has been more like, you know, because I've been around for a little while, and it's been like always for he's not doing so well, let's put him into vocational training. I distributed little flyers that we have at our learning center. And this is the kind of promotional tool that we use when we go to fairs and things like that. So I would invite you to take one. I don't know which one you had at your seat, because I've varied them a tiny bit. And
They're not the same.
They're not the same. So there's 4 or 5 different ones out there. So what the little activity we're going to do right now, I would invite you to read. Now, would invite you to say, oh, I didn't know that. Or I wonder what if, so take just 2 minutes and you might want to read it. And then I'll kind of explain to you the different types of vocational training that I distributed. Yeah, because there are different kinds of industry.
Oh, just
a few in our establishment. We only have like let's say 6 or 7 programs that are running more regularly. So for the learning center in Quebec City. But the bigger school board, the English Montreal School Board, which is really not far from here. Well, they're all over the place on the island, I guess. They have many programs. So what I need is, I'm not really sure. I said I don't know if the audience knows anything about vocational training. So before I came in, I said, how can I find out what they know about vocational training? Because I don't want to tell you stuff you already know, but at the same time, everybody sort of might have a vague notion of what vocational training is. And has anybody, I can't except Robin, has anybody ever taken a vocational training? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Good, perfect.
starting a business.
Starting a business. Oh, that's one of the popular ones. Well, it's not basic. It's really useful for what you wanted to do.
It's even useful for the newcomer to get more understanding about the country, the regulation, business-wise, the
governments, and
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So starting a business is an ASP actually, and it's 330 some hours, and that happens to be a very interesting one to be talking about, because it's offered quite widely online now, and every now and then you might be going in to meet with the coach. And actually the coach is probably online now, or because before the pandemic was really in person, but now it's more like online, so.
Maybe based on the attendant, the student, so they have where they have family, they have
There we go.
obligation.
We were just talking in this most recent one, the French second language, we talked about accessibility to language classes. Well, yeah, the problem is everybody would like to maybe look into, explore, opening their own business with having to go to a class or drive there to get there, spend the evening there, and then come home. Well, now actually starting business is one of the better programs to in mind because it's almost geared towards your own personal project that you're initiating. Maybe think about starting a business. So you can get some general information that the group needs to know, but then you're always off working on your own project, and then you get a lot of personal coaching with the teacher. So that's one example. So there you go. So that's good. Anybody else? Vocational training? Are you taking vocational training? Anybody in your family? Oh, yes, you have one.
Same course.
The same one, starting a business. Okay. So I would like, you know, you can go into what's had a good course and you can start a business, but the whole idea is that it's an option for people. Normally you should have a little project that you want to get started. It's not there to see how to start a business. It's there how to put into place the idea you have in your head to get to the little business or to the business venture that you're going to develop. Okay, and do you have any family members?
I saw my
What's he doing?
He's doing building and maintenance and LSB. We're done.
All right.
You would know that, but yeah, and we had a good conversation yesterday because I talked to him last night and I cried. I was always thinking now, well, he had to drop out of CEGEP was for a multitude of reasons that I'm not going to today. But again, like in my mind, I was thinking of it the way you introduced it, as it's like it's for those kids, and then you also use the word he too. So I think we always have that idea that it's only male too. He's doing that, and he's pretty happy, and he's thinking about what to do next with that. But
you know offhand, because I don't know how many hours that one is off.
it's a full year.
760.
Okay, yeah, she's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Program to
800
Yeah.
for the visa.
right. So it's not like a week in the building, learning how to do maintenance, and then these programs.
Oh no, he does module after module.
Module after module.
And also online, you need to understand how to use Excel too.
We don't list the modules, and we used to list modules on our flyers, but students don't care about that. But potential students don't care about that. They just want to know what is that can do with this kind of training. So we remove that, but from a job perspective, and things like that is what they really want to know, and they don't really want to know. Well, I do competency number one, right? And what's the competency that I want to do that. So I'm glad to hear that, and that he's enjoying himself. Excellent. Anybody else you said? Yes.
My brother's an electrician.
There. I'm so happy. So, gee, that's a horrible job.
That's a
he must be on unemployment all the time, and he probably has a basic salary of $15 an hour.
I told my coworkers last night that he's a year older than me and he's retired. Very happily, successfully retired, and I'm a long way off. So I'm a big fan of the
See,
trade.
the point we'd like to make in vocational training, whenever we have our programs, it's not just for students who are in difficulty. And I would dare say, students who are having great difficulty will not make it in most of our programs. You know, mathematics is like present in almost all of the programs. And, you know, if you're struggling with math, I would say you probably will stop struggling with the help of the teachers because you're only going to focus on that math that you really need for the bricklaying, for the carpentry, or for the cooking, even, like, you know,
There is no
word for carpentry. What's that?
There is no math, or the functional way to get into carpentry does not require math, which I find fascinating.
No, but then what math you do need, and nowadays, my God, they use phones and they use all sorts of things. They don't use all the basic tools like a few years back. But so it's just to say that, you know, there's such a variety. You can earn a good living, you can enjoy your career, and then retire, and then go to cooking. Once you finish one day, okay, one vocational program, you can move on to another. We do have a little bit of a clientele who is coming into our hotel reception program. Retired.
And I wanted to work part-time. And like, why not? What a nice retirement project.
We always had people in the cooking program.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm retired, I've always wanted to go to culinary school, I'm doing culinary school. So
Walmart reader module.
We laugh, but there is an STC, a skills training certificate called customer service.
Okay.
Perfect.
That,
So I know I did it during COVID. That was my COVID learning. I was like, oh, I want to do this.
Oh,
And
cool.
it was awesome because like, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but like you were saying, the people taking that course were actually all people, new Canadians or new immigrants into Canada, breaking into the workforce and wanting to know what is Canadian workforce culture. And they were coming from all different backgrounds. We had some salespeople, but then we also had who was a veterinarian. There were 2 pharmacists. There was like all kinds of different backgrounds. So it's not because you have a university degree that you cannot benefit from vocational training. It's not a hierarchy thing, you know, and I think that is super critical.
And
to
actually, we
understand.
do have some students who come in and say they took the technical course in the stage level, but it wasn't hands-on enough that they wanted to go to the other level, which is more hands-on, which is more the vocational training programs. You said your son, so he was at the stage yet?
He was in a technical program at SAGEP, and well, it was social service program at Dawson, but he had a medical, anyway, whatever.
Right, but it just didn't work fine. We have found that some students are moving on to the SAGEP level because they're still searching, because we did a little survey with the students, some of the students in the school board, and why, like, they don't consider vocational so much, because people don't really talk much about it, or they don't know much about it. They also said that they needed 2 extra years to think about their future, so they moved on to SAGEP. Whereas when they come into vocational, it's like you almost already have chosen your trade. Doesn't mean you can't change, but it was sort of like the SAGEP is I was thinking they would say, well, you know, it's higher education. Well, no, it's just 2 more years. Think about it. Okay, so that's what we found in the research that we had in the Quebec City region. That was one of the things that popped up. So we get 2 more years to think about it. And then they go into SAGEP, and sometimes in a technical program, and they say, well, that's not what I really want. I want to know what I think that's what we right. Our nursing assistant program, like, does anybody have one of them? Yeah, the nursing assistant. I do. So, nursing assistant and nurse. So what's the difference between the 2? Yeah. Well, this is just exactly hands-on. You're the one giving the pills to the patient. You're the one, we call it, you can handle the wound. You're the one putting the bandage on you. You're the one doing the blood test in the morning. Where the nurse, what are the nurses doing, you say? They're doing a lot of the administrative management around the patient. So sometimes you have students who come in, I know the salary's not the same, but you know, entry level nursing assistant, it's more what can I say, more hands-on, more contact with the patient. And then you can even, some of our students have left our nursing assistant program or finished it, worked a year as a nursing assistant, and enrolled in the technical program to become a nurse. And a few little things are credited, right? Once you get into SAGEP, not that much. So did you see how many hours that program is? The nursing. 1,800 hours. 1,800 hours. What does that mean when you study? What is 1,800 hours? Right? So you say a regular student in the high school studies approximately 900 hours in a year. So it's approximately 2 years, and it all depends on the schedule. So at our learning center, we break 2 months in the summer. So yeah, it's 2 years, but mine's plus 2 months, or 2 school years, or 8 weeks off, and then we come back. And students appreciate that because they get to work as a personal care attendant in the hospitals, make a little bit of money too, and then come back to and then move on, and then they've got a little more experience and seniority.
because the seniority for the personal care attendant in the same institution is the same as, it'll be carried on to their nursing assistant position that they've got, if they're from the same organization. So if they're with the Quebec government, it'll just follow it. So that's interesting as well. So 1,800 hours. How many hours does somebody do in, let's say somebody's full-time at CEGEP in 1 year? Okay, 5 courses, right? 8.
University is 5, 8 is the-
Okay, 8, and each course is 45 hours? That is 45
Yeah.
hours. So if you calculate that, so 8 times 45, 8 times 45. 200 and 300 something.
So 8 times 45 is it?
Yeah.
8 times was 320, 8 times 5 is 40, so 360.
360. Okay. And
Times
then,
2 though.
and then to the second semester,
Times 2.
times 2,
That's
7.
7.
And
So
some
we're
are,
not at 900 hours. And then in the next year, you know. So the number of hours, I always find it's quite impressive. The maximum number of hours in a vocational training program is 1,800 hours. Then if there's a trader, it usually has to go to the technical level because it requires more time. But you know, if you analyze that one, we say, yeah, but they're doing 45 hours. But the 1,800 hour programs are the longest programs. There are several of them that are offered in the vocational sector. So now if you're going to tell me that this, yeah, the vocational is for the guys or the girls who don't really like school, the 1,800 hour nursing program might not be for that. You know, so we're talking about the health sector. We're not talking about another sector that doesn't have its requirements. The nursing program, by the way, they take it with us. They pass 1,800 hours, life is good. They get their diploma from the Ministry of Education. And then they have to pass the order exam.
Your exam.
So it's quite an undertaking. So it's not just I'm to do with my time, so I think I'll take them. In that, they have 31 competencies that they have different number of hours for competencies. 11 of which are on internship in the workplace. So, you know, the first year is basically they're in the building with us, mostly for the theory. And then once they come back in the second year, well, basically you don't see them because they're gone all the time off on internship. So just, you know, that's vocational training. That's one example. And that's the most common example these days because they need so many people in the health field that this is a very popular program. What's the other one that I put out there? Oh, school daycare educator. Does anybody have that one? School daycare educator. How many hours is that? It's 390. 390? 290, that's pretty good. 290. School daycare educator. School daycare educator, not the CEGEP program, where you're going to be with these 0 to 5-year-olds, or 0 to 4-year-olds. It's the school daycare educator. It's being in the elementary schools with kids that are, like, say, from 4, they're going to be at 4 years old now, and 4 pre-K. So it's like from 4 to 10, 11, I guess, say, 6. School day educator, school daycare educator. So it's for the services of the school daycare that anybody has any kids in elementary school. That's, you know, I was a center director of an adult center, and I was always happy that I knew daycare. You know, it's managing the daycare on top of all the other services you have. It's quite a challenge for the elementary school principals. So that one's interesting. And that, from what I understand, you know, the ministry, I don't know, you hear them talking about how, oh, we need the school daycare educators and the Stop Center, the daycare. So they're putting out initiatives so that people will take this training. So this is another one. This one's more called an STC, a skills training certificate. So this is also, oh my God, an important part of society. We need nursing assistants, we need school daycare educator people, and these are at our level of vocational training. I've never seen so much money so become available to accommodate people who would like to take these programs in the last. I just retired last Friday, and there's so much money out there now. I said, well, we must have been doing something right, because, you know, it demonstrated the need for all of these trades. And, you know, I guess the government wasn't really listening for the 20 other years that we were talking about it. But right now it's very important. So they're trying to make it more accessible. You can, you know, almost leave your job and take that training if you want to, because they'll pay, you know, service Quebec will pay and stuff like that. And the training is almost free in Quebec if you're eligible for Quebec resident. Yes.
The boards offer most of the 9 school boards offer vocational training.
All of the English school boards offer vocational training. We don't offer all of the programs. So do you know how many programs there are in vocational training in the province of Quebec?
In English?
No, just in general.
500 or so?
There's 150 that are still active, because some have been, you know, what's it, that one was eliminated because people are getting questions. But that's an example of one that they had. They're modernizing it, which is very nice. But yeah, so 150
DPs.
Yeah, diploma of vocational training, because there's about 50 STCs out there.
That's a skills training. You said one for ABS.
Okay, so the ABS is an attestation of professional specialization. After you do a
No.
not necessarily.
There's 3 certificates.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a DBS and ASP, and STC. ASP is an attestation of specialization. Of vocational specialization.
Professional specialization.
Yes. So there's 3 levels. Usually, let's say like a secretarial studies program. If you want to do the specialized medical secretary, then that there's a specialization there. But you used to always have to have a first diploma to get into the second. They're starting to move on that one because they need. The other thing that we do have though as well is the recognition of acquired competencies. So we can actually recognize people who might have workplace experience. You know, you don't need a diploma to be, let's say, a receptionist. You don't need a diploma to be a secretary unless you work for the government or the school board. So some people actually acquire a lot of skills on their own time, on their own jobs, and they never had that diploma. And then this is where the rack, we call it the rack. So we rack people. We always talk about, oh, let's rack him, and he could be racked, and she could be racked. The hotel reception, I'm gonna rack it. The hotel reception.
Great slogans for rack.
You know, the hotel reception program, when the pandemic hit, when was that? Okay, March 2020. A lot of people lost their jobs in the hotel world, and our rack for hotels was kind of busy because these people didn't have a diploma necessarily, but were working in the hotels because hotels hired with a diploma, unless you're at management level. So the receptionists, so we were busy racking people during the pandemic. So that was quite interesting. So at least they get their first diploma of vocational studies. BBS, they get it recognized. We go in with this as a whole structured process that the ministry has set up. People don't just want to say, you know, I worked as a night clerk at this hotel for 6 months. I want my diploma. It doesn't quite work like that. But everything they've done there counts for something. And they may only have to do 1 or 2 exams, competencies, and then they get it. So we also do that.
Yes. I'm just wondering, in the 150 programs, you know how many are offered in English and how many are offered, like let's say in the 9 boards?
Right. I don't know the exact numbers. So I tried to get the numbers. A couple of things are happening. When I was preparing this, I thought I should get some statistics and some numbers. You know, many of the numbers from the Ministry of Education date back to 2008. The only recent numbers that we have are registration numbers for 2021-22. But I could have asked the school board. The problem is, we have in the English school boards, we don't have access to all of the vocational training programs. Why? Go there. The Ministry of Education decides who can offer a program. Actually, the process for requesting a program, it takes up to 3 years before we get the word back on whether or not we can have it. We have to have such a portfolio, such a structured portfolio, like explaining why we should be offering the program. We have to demonstrate that it's already on our territory, it's offered by a French school board. Why would we need to offer it in English in our school board?
So I'm talking about just add a program to this English school board, not invent a new one.
No. Just the ones that are existing.
In the same territory, whether it be a French version of it.
So you have to really justify. Let's say it's a little easier on the island of Montreal to justify why English training could be interesting in all of the programs. Quebec City, let me tell you, when I tried to convince everybody like why we should get the pharmacy technical assistant program in Quebec City, like why? There's a school board offering it, 20 kilometers down the road.
Out of the eastern managed.
So you have to get creative, right? You have to say, what do they know anyway, right? I mean, it's
90% of Quebec City is French speaking.
Yeah, it's pretty French speaking. But so the CIUSCAP National has a required obligation to serve the community in English, and it was one of the healthcare programs. So we built all of our portfolio around that.
Jeffrey Hale.
Yeah, exactly. So we built it all around that. The fact that services in English, mind you, the pharmacy technical assistant in the hospitals, because that program has a community base and a hospital base for part of the program. So justifying that the person who spoke English in the pharmacies, that was kind of easy. But that the job that they do in the hospital, they don't really even see the patients. They're just working with those and so it was a little tough, but we got it, and mostly because they felt probably that with the CIUSCAP and now they had no choice but to make sure that the English services were.
I got a question. I don't know if I misunderstood, but in the school board, like we have to send out like our list of programs for the next year, right? And they're always accepted. So that's different from what you're saying.
What level do you have to send out your programs for the next year?
Oh, to the ministry.
You have to do that?
Yeah, every year we send a letter with the programs.
At the station level?
No, it's no vocation.
Preschool board.
Preschool.
Oh, the preschool board.
Sorry,
yeah. Sorry.
I don't know if I misunderstood you, but it seemed like that.
Well, sort of like you're probably on a temporary, provisional. It's probably what they've offered you as a kind of authorization.
Yeah, and the other day we had sent in like computer graphics course.
Okay.
Addition, I'd say addendum, I think addition. We had to send in the letter, right? I usually look up the letters and stuff. And the director signs. I say the big boss, right? The director, but they will add that too.
Right. Well, the regular school boards, if we have it, if we have a permanent authorization, it's good forever. If we have a provisional, it has a time frame. Actually, in our school board, we're renewing the pharmacy provisional that we got. Takes up to 6 months to a year to get an actual back. It's that big. And you're not allowed to train people on a provisional if it's not been renewed. So it gets a little tricky when we're trying to plan or offer a service. And in the old days, they could come back in 3 months with an answer, and now it's 6 months to a year.
So I have a question regarding grant.
Right.
Is that applicable to all types of
Almost all,
education?
almost all except the nursing program, because the nursing program is controlled by an order, and we can't rat people in the nursing program because they analyze the file, and they determine whether or not that student can be recognized or not, but we can. But that's almost the only one.
Because there's a fundamental concept in education in Quebec is that you don't have to relearn something you already know. You just have to prove that you know it. And that's the concept of RAC. So somebody that's learned the skill in the workforce, somebody that's learned the skill elsewhere, somebody that immigrates to Canada and works, because nothing in vocational training except for the healthcare, nothing is obligatory. You can learn every single trade on your own. Right? You don't have to go to school. And so because it's not mandatory, you don't want to be penalized because you worked in your uncle's body shop for 20 years, and now you want to open up your own, and the bank's saying, I'm making stuff up here. Let's say the bank is like saying, we're not going to give you a loan unless you can show us that you actually have the diploma to be an auto mechanic. And you can be like, what, I got to go back to school now? Like, I know everything. And it's like, no, the principle in the Education Act is that you don't have to relearn something you can prove that you know. Yeah. That's the idea of RAC.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So does your board RAC for academics to allow students to get into vocational programs?
We could.
But it's
that's been controlled recently in the last 5 years.
Pardon me?
It used to be a little easier, and now it's a little more controlled. The ministry has taken like I was there a long time, so like I felt the grips on the ministry on everything we do tightening up over the last 2 years. And we used to be able to, students, let's say students who can't, we're an English school board, so if it was French second language that we could evaluate. He speaks French like a francophone. Send him to the exam. That's what we used to do. Why? Make him take the course if you already know. That's done. Can't do that anymore. Even if the guy speaks maybe even better French than he does English. But it was in the English system. So you have to go through the process of what's the last course that was recognized by the ministry, and then you have to start in there. You can take a shorter amount of time because in the adult sector, it's individualized approach. Instead of taking a whole year to do a level in French, as fast as the student can go.
Or we have the general development test with the 10s.
Right, but that brings you to certain limitations.
We use the GET.
But there is RAC, yes, there is RAC for sure in the adult general education center. So 390 hours, 1,800 hours, what's the other thing? That's up pharmacy is 14, 14 pharmacy.
The pharmacy is 14.
Yeah, well, 1,100 hours.
Administrative assistant.
Administrative assistant, that's the other one that's interesting. You could do a double DDS. So you do, usually you start with secretarial studies, and then some of the competencies overlap into the accounting.
Yeah.
So they will recognize the competencies that are overlapping in the two programs. So you just have to add on the part of the accounting like you did. So that could be a double.
Yeah, there are many common modules between the two programs.
Absolutely. So they don't, at least they recognize that you've done it once and that you don't have to do it again, but a double DEF is a double DDS.
There's a lot of them like that. Like when you think of like automated electromechanics, if you've done plumbing, then you'll have a bunch of competencies inside that you're not going to have to redo. Once again, goes to that principle of you've already learned it and you can prove it, you don't need to redo it. So even though electricity is 1,800 hours and automated systems is 1,800 hours, you're not going to have to do 3,600 hours of learning to get both the APs.
So at least there's that. So this is the premise. Okay, one thing I wanted to say before I get started. My name is Susie Faggy. I live in Quebec City. I have lived in Quebec City my entire life. I am a person who went through English schooling in Quebec City. So, without knowing, like my parents, of course, my mother was British English, so of course she was happy that the kids went to English school. But, back then it was freedom of choice, and we send them to the French school, English school, it didn't really matter. You took usually it was the school closest to your house, right? Back then in 1964-5, when I started, No, they were the competitors. They were like that there, you know, I was intimidated. So I went completely through the English system. I went through English Asia as well in Quebec City because those services were available. And then, like many Anglophones, and like you said, when I get to go to Laval University, is my French really that good? And it was good, but you know, it was like, oh my God, you know, writing in French, and then we had an entry exam. Yeah. So my girlfriend and I decided to come to Concordia University. So it was the road trip down Highway 20 for 3 years, and then we stayed here and got our diploma here. So I'm really a product of the English schooling system. And, you know, I worked for a French school board for 25 years, and nobody, you know, so anybody who thinks that because you're maybe Anglophone based in the province of Quebec, that you don't speak French and you can't survive in French and that you're not damn good in French. And even written French, I could say that I probably write better French than a lot of people I know. You know, so, you know, all this notion that we're talking about here in the English, and people, English might not know French well enough, yeah, but maybe they do. And maybe I happen to be one of those silent English people who is a Quebecoise, but like a Franglophone. So, you know, especially in Quebec City, we were really like Francophone. We spoke more French than we did English. So I just needed you to know that I'm like a product of the English schooling since 1965 in the province of Quebec. You know, and worked in the French sector, worked in the English sector. So, you know, it's like, I don't know what all the fuss is about. Actually, that's what I'm trying to talk about. So, wait a second, I had one little thing to say that I wanted to ask you before we move on.
Do you do customized trainings?
We can do customized training. That's where, well, I'll show you, I'll do my PowerPoint because it's all in there. So that's the business services that each school board has.
Yeah.
And that's where the customized training can come in. So either on request from the industry or on like a request from, like we have one of our programs, we have a competency in one of our programs that we could be offering in the industry. You know? So yeah, sure.
How do you find, sorry, probably an answer after, but how do you find the, because we've done some, we've racked some students. No, I meant to change the rack, sorry. So you do, but in rack, that we rack some students in Secretary of Studies, but now in the spring, we're going to do racking students in NHEO, Northern Independent Prison Operation.
Okay, sure.
But how do you go about, because it's relatively new, well, it's not new, but it hasn't been done a lot.
Well, it's going to have to be in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, because if you want whatever you're doing to be recognized at the other end, it will have to be guided by the ministry. Yeah. You can do what you want, but then at the other end, if they don't get the diploma they need.
Yeah, no, we've been successful at that part. My question is like, because it was in Secretary of Studies, it was easy to find someone, seemed like, but say courses like that, Northern and NHEO, like, how do you find the
content expert?
Yeah, content expert.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, you know, I don't know. Up in the Cree, do you work with Lester B. Pearson School Board? Are they with the Cree? I know they do a lot of work with the Cree, but they find a content expert, and if let's say the content expert is not a teacher, they support him as a teacher, that he becomes a teacher.
Oh, unless B. Pearson.
Right. Yeah. I think it's Lester B. That's up there with Mark.
Oh, yes, we do. Yeah. Because he helps with the Secretary of Studies.
Yeah, that's so. When I started working at the Eastern Quebec Learning Center, I was not in vocational training when I arrived there, and in that center, it's half vocational training and half adult general education, and I was more of a specialist in adult general education. So when I first showed up there, it was part of my master plan to eventually get into vocational training. Right? So, for me, organizing services that help an adult move forward in whatever project they have, however old the adult is, 16 years old or 46 years old, you want to do something, we can organize a service and we're going to get it for you. And if I can't do it, I'm gonna refer you to somebody who can do it. Little High, we work a lot with the Little High School Board. It's a bilingual school board, and it's on the Southern Sky or school board. The Little High School Board, they, we worked with them a couple of times on exceptional cases for people who were missing a few competencies. How can we help this person finish? So we did a few amazing partnerships, collaboration with the student never stepped foot in my building, but we declare all of the learning because we are the ones who have the authorization. You can't just do what you want to do in the school board, right? The ministry is controlling, which is a good thing because otherwise, what's the control on the diplomas, right? So yeah. So when I started at the Eastern Quebec Learning Center, I showed up there and I showed up at the first principal's meeting. But there's only one learning center in the Central Quebec School Board, and all the others are like elementary or high school over a huge territory. Central Quebec goes up to Saguenay and it goes close to the Gaspé and it goes Thetford Mines and it goes Shoving and that shit. So it's a huge barracks. And I showed up there and I was wondering what everybody knew about vocational training. And then you always have to, like, you know, go from where the learner is, right? What do they learn? Don't teach them stuff they already know. Just and many of my colleagues didn't know much about vocation, unless they had a few students who had a few problems for high school, and then they had explored a little bit the options of vocation. So back then in 2011, when I showed up at the Central Quebec School Board, the question I had there was about the Coliseum, you know, the Centre Vidéotron that was built in Quebec, I guess in like about 2013. The question was, how many tradespeople does it take to build a Centre Vidéotron? Well, the question is always there. It doesn't really matter what we're talking about. We agree that we all need more affordable housing. So the problem is that the governments are not giving money for that. And so let's just say in our dream world, we have all the money we need. What do we need? We need the trades. You can't move forward on that project, no matter how many architects and no matter how many engineers you have. You can't move forward on affordable housing until you have the trades. When the trades come in, that's when things get moving. So, you know, we do more than train people. We stimulate the economy. During the pandemic, what was going on during the pandemic? Not much. Most of our trades were all still working.
We were essential workers.
Essential workers, the cooks, but like if you looked at all the trades, they were pretty also working because they're at the level of offering services and keeping the economy running. So that's the thing I think we have to impress our dear brother who's an electrician, earned this, you know, great salary all his life if he was you know, working full time and stuff like that. So, and he's part of the Constitution, what is it, the CS2 or something? CS2. So that's another thing too. He has to be part of that, but he needed his trade first to get to be part of that and to contribute to that. And so, you know, the new thing that we hear on the news all the time is this affordable housing, which is so true. So if you look in your little document, I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to be able to move this slide forward. Yes, we're going to. She said, don't worry, you just have to do this. There we go. So how many vocational training graduates does it take to build more homes or apartments? So we have a few illustrations in the little book that you have. So I intentionally did not identify them. You know, these guys, yeah, the electricians, the plumbers, the carpenters, yeah, those are the obvious ones, and those are the ones we always talk about. But there are so many more, and I just have a few in there in illustration, just a couple, just to show you. And by the way, Robin, you said put a cook in there. Nice.
We feed people.
Feed the beast. That's right. So if we look at the first one there, like what is this? What is this? And what is this? What trade is this? Commercial drawing.
Yeah, commercial drafting, dessin bâtiment in French, or dessin résidentiel. This one, no, this, I asked my husband, what do you think that is? And he said, I don't know. Come on, it's a secretary. Everybody knows. So, you know, there is somebody, you know, ordering all those parts and making sure that the companies have the plumbing that they need, have the tools that they need. So the secretaries are there, and I'm telling you, we're really at a basic level. These guys, during the pandemic, were basically the lifesavers of the economy. You know, making sure that things were getting to be where they had to be. Even if some of the factories are not working at full capacity, you know, they were out there. So these guys, and it doesn't matter what kind of truck you drive, it could be the garbage truck, like it could be the concrete truck, like it could be the whatever kind of trucks there are. But if you build anything, you need these guys and ladies too. Not traditional sometimes, but then what's this guy? Telecommunications operator. And then this, you say, what about, well, yeah, you know, you put the grass up the front, you put little trees, and you got the bushes, landscaping. Yeah, landscaping. And then, of course, I do this because 2 reasons. Well, I knew Robin was going to be here, but my husband was for all of his years just before he retired. And, you know, on remplit des bedettes. So he said, you know, if you don't feed them, they can't do much. So all of the trades, and whether or not they brought their own lunch or whether or not they went out to the restaurant, like, I mean, this is a part of. So I said, okay, we're gonna add it in there. The cook gets recognition, you know. Here we have auto mechanics. So whether it's the maintenance on the trucks, on the cars, you know, these guys are there. If you don't have them, the trucks won't roll out, the cars won't roll out. And this guy here, and by the way, not my fault, but they only put the guys in the pictures on it now.
Yeah.
Clip art, you know, it's like yeah, so it's flooring, you know, it's a flooring tile. Well, it could be. Well, he could be carrelage. So actually, the word of it. The floor covering installer. Floor covering installer. So whether it be, you know, vinyl, whether it be carpet, whether it be rubber, whether it be whatever it is that it has to be. So inside the buildings, we're going to decide that we're going to need, you know, the carpeting and the stairs, and we're going to paint the walls this color. And some of the higher end buildings go even farther than that. But even just a basic low cost housing unit, there are some decisions that are made when you have to paint the place, and then you need the painters and all of that stuff. But you understand, the whole idea is to let you know that no trades, nothing goes. So you have your bricklayers, you have your window installer, your roofer. This one is the
customer support.
Yep, that's what is our customer support. It could be for ordering. It could also be, you know, it could be the receptionist working at the company that receives the orders, and the typical, the welder. The printer, the offset printer, there's a lot less of that, but there still is some level of printing that is required in the plans or in the, you know, the catalogs that you're looking at, the stuff that you're choosing from. It's a lot online now, but at the same time, that happens to be one of our programs. I think it's taken off again in the world of vocational.
Yeah, because I was working with RTC has it, Roosevelt Technology has it, and I was doing some work with them.
There was a drop in registration, and now it's gone back up. So because of the technology and all of the graphic designs that can be done. So we're talking about 15 of the 21 vocational training sectors. So there are 21 vocational training sectors. Sector 1 is admin. I don't know the other ones off by heart. Sector 19 is the health sector. So each sector has different vocational training programs in it. So my whole point there is, like, you understand, no vocational training. We have nothing, literally nothing. So That was my dramatic statement back. And back when I talked about this, they wanted the Nordique to come back to Quebec City to play hockey.
Okay.
So I told them, no vocational training, no Nordique, right now. So you have to build the Centre Vidéotron, and then they'll come build it, they will come, you know. So, but it's big, and it's the economy depends on vocational. It's just as simple as that. Yes.
I was just gonna say, I heard a really great quote from someone recently about, you know, the fear around AI coming in and taking over jobs and, you know, making different jobs obsolete. And this person was like, well, AI is never gonna fix your toilet and it's never gonna lay an underground pipe, you know, and I was like, that is so bang on.
It's never gonna cut your hair.
To develop a better system that they're gonna install.
But there's
still gonna be somebody
it
installed.
really shows how necessary vocational trades and the training is. And when I was in, you know, State Vet University, I'm in my early 40s now, and when I was going through school, leaving high school, this was not presented to my generation or cohort as a great idea or a way to be successful in the region. And I think it really did a few cohorts a great disservice, to be frank, because there's kids that will thrive in a university environment, and there's kids that just won't. You know, they're tactile, they're interested by different things, and I think we really need to do a better job of promoting these opportunities.
I always like the story. I don't know if it was that one of these programs in English Montreal. The gentleman had gone on to his university degree in architecture or engineering, and he was like, "No, I need." He came back and did a vocational training program in the basics. Still is an architect and engineer, but he needed to know more about what was going on at the level that he was planning for. So I think Mario told me, you know, we even had an engineer come back and take the vocational program just to see hands-on what's going on. That's interesting. I don't know if you're all aware of InfoRoute, FAP. So if you go on there, it's just amazing, all the information. I could tell you. Can I get on there? I think.
Oh yeah, it's
You won't. If you go on there, it's all of everything that's available in the province of Quebec, vocational training. We work in collaboration with the organization who manages this site too, because at one point, the English version of all of these programs was not quite evident when you went on to the website. So now they always automatically say this program is also offered in English when it's offered in English. Whereas in the past, you sort of had to click on the English or French. And some people didn't know to do that, especially in my city, in my region, you know, click on it, you're in Capitale Nationale, and you would have to know that there's an English learning center that offers English, and now it says automatically. So at least we're getting fair representation with the, it's more in a collaborative mood, by the way.
Except that the English schools are listed after all of the French.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know.
Really need to scroll.
So this is my thing, a vocational training stimulates the economy. We keep the economy running. Future jobs will be, I'm not saying that the cégep level techniques are not going to be important, but I'm telling you that there's going to be some new trades coming out that we don't even know exist over the next few years to meet the needs of industries. So the high ministry program standards taught by experienced teachers from the birthplace assure competent graduates. The passing grade for the competence is 80%. So if you do, I don't know, whatever competency is in the program, you can't get 65% because you don't pass. You have to get 80 on all of your competencies. They were a few 75s back then, and they removed them now, or they're gone. But you understand that. So the little guy or the little young lady who hates school and doesn't do well, and we're telling them now every competency has to be 80%. course, the grading system, the way it goes is you get this one right, it's worth so many points, you get that one wrong. So, you know, it's sort of like you get 60 or 80 in the way you're completing your questions, but you understand that you don't want somebody who's going to be doing electricity, or you don't want a nursing assistant passing their program on 60%. You want them to be almost like 100%. And the only reason they're not 100% is because they're entry level. So once they've been there for a year, they would probably be 100%, but they're entry level. So these standards don't exist in the high schools, and they don't exist in CEGEP, and they certainly don't exist in the university. So when you have a vocational training graduate, 80% on every single one of the competencies. So that's those are standards, I'd say. And every one of our programs has at least one ministry exam, like a control exam, that everybody has to be doing. Others can be designed by the school board and by the pedagogical advisors or the educational consultants, but everyone has at least one ministry exam. So that's the standardization of the program in the province. So the numbers, the numbers jumped over there. So for 21-22, the 127,000 registration invitational. That's not bad. How many diplomas last year? 35,000 vocational diplomas. The attestations of 14,000. So that starting a business is a very popular ABS. And the skills training certificates, there were 6,000, which is listed there. I'm a bit surprised. It should be more than that. Yeah.
Do most of the boards offer skills training certificates?
I would say everybody's offering them. They're all different. They're all different. I would say school daycare educator, all the school boards offer that. What's the other one? The STC that everybody must be offering.
STC student eligible for the financial aid.
STCs are not normally eligible for financial aid because the STCs are the shortest programs.
Okay. Except for the construction ones.
Yeah, except for the construction. And right now they're doing all sorts of things. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, they didn't have enough personal care attendants, right? And everybody was getting sick, and they still didn't have enough. So they created this very short personal care attendant for the old folks home seniors. Yeah, so 300. They took the 870-hour program and in 4 weeks reduced it down to 375 hours. And I would say all of the school boards offered that, and that was quite something. But you're kind of restricted to working in a CHSA, a long-term care facility. You can't go into the hospitals with that. So people who took it and they did a great job, and never was, the news would go telling you what you're not going to get. Let me say 10,000. I'm going to train 10,000 personal care attendants for the old folks home. And he managed to get quite a few people. Many of them are still there, but these people are now restricted to work in a person in a long-term care facility. And when they find that out, sometimes they're a little upset because it's, well, we took this program because we thought, we can't, but if you want to go into the hospitals or into the CSC, you have to continue with the rest of the training. Yeah.
Is that program still running?
Oh, absolutely. My God.
I heard that they were going to phase it out.
So that's the big yes. No, it's not phased out. It's very active. School boards are still offering it. There's still an amount of money that's offered to the people if you have a really good job, they'll compensate financially to do full-time studies. It's a short program, 13 weeks. 13 weeks, and after like 4 weeks, they're already in the long-term care facility. Yes.
Are these the numbers for both languages?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have any idea results in English?
I don't. I would look for them everywhere.
I have them.
You have them.
I don't remember what year, but it's going to be around. I was looking that up, but it was all pre-pandemic stuff. Because the pandemic skewed the numbers a lot, So I was looking at, let's say, like 2018, 2019, And the number of people in vocational training in English is around 15,000.
On about 100 something.
Yeah.
So,
It's about.
But, and actually, I wanted to check to see how many high school diplomas were issued
Yeah.
at the same time as we have our
Same time to
VBS.
see.
Because you do know that some of our students, I would even say, I don't want to say half of our students, but many of our students already have a high school diploma and they come to vocational.
Yeah.
And if they're only missing certain optional courses, let's say they come and they haven't quite finished the high school diploma, when they complete their vocational diploma, depending on what credits they were missing, it generates the high school diploma.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of double diplomas every year. The people who didn't have their, optional credit courses, all the vocational counts for optional credit. So if they have their mother tongue and they have their history is no longer obligatory, I don't think.
No.
So, but if they have their mother tongue credits, they
And second language.
could generate their
Yeah,
other
it's
language.
still French
It's
math.
math.
Yeah.
English, secondary 5, French as a second language, secondary 5.
Right.
You have
So if
those
they have
three,
that-
and then a professional diploma, you have a double diploma.
Yeah.
So that's amazing as well. Some students didn't realize that and they get it at home, and some of them don't tell us because they think we're going to take it away because it must be a mistake, but it's not a mistake.
No, and on a side note, I've actually noticed, this is like anecdotal, but I noticed like a lot of students just kind of hitting the end of high school right now. That 2 years of the pandemic really did a number on them experimenting and exploring. And having this option to be able to do, like as of secondary 4, once you have those three prerequisite classes, to have the option of, wait, I can still get my secondary diploma and like play with the trade a little bit, figure this out before I decide, hey, I'm going to continue in the trade or I'm going to go on to SAJA. Like having that option, it's actually quite empowering to them. And I can say this like anecdotally because I know students that are about 17 years old that are going, not the ones that I'm teaching, but just people around me. And they're like, wait, I didn't even know this was a possibility because it only gets presented, once again, it's the deficit model. It gets presented to the students that are struggling. And it's not seen as a model of positivity. Hey, 2 years of your life, you didn't really get to do much. Hey, did you ever think about this? And then you could explore a little bit. So it's actually, this notion of being able to do the double is actually very cool.
It's very reassuring for the parents as well. We
Yeah.
really absolutely think that, we really have to have a high school leaving certificate. We were talking about like the programs, the vocational diplomas are anywhere from 635 hours to 1,800 hours, depending on what the trade is. So that's doable. Not too many are 1,800 hours, but that's the max. Those are the more intense, longer, with more internships as well. 50 short training programs, including the personal care attendant, the school daycare educator. Like the list, I've heard that they're working on a shorter training for the electrician, so that the entry-level electrician, that they won't be able to do all the tasks, but they'll be able to get them in there. And then they'll come out and finish with us with the electricity program. So, and 60% of the students already have a diploma when they come in. And we are actively involved in updating and developing new program content. We're always consulted. It takes forever for it to get through the process, but we're always consulted. There's always school board experts or Centre Service Scolaire expert on the ministry teams. So it's not like just somebody sitting in the office in the Ministry of Education renewing the programs. They go into industry and they come into the learning centers as well. So we're part of that. So, and we make a lot of suggestions that don't always get, they don't always go through with their done. This is the recognition of the skills. So, the recognition of acquired competencies is fantastic for somebody who, even from our immigrant population coming in now, it's great because they do have some skills. Their diploma in their country is not recognized and by the Quebec government or by whatever the system is of recognition of diplomas. So if they can come in and they can demonstrate that they work here or they did this or they did that, the process, they undertake the process and sometimes finish their programs with us. Compétences Québec, that's something that you might hear about every now and then. that there's a competition in the province of all the vocational training centers in certain trades. The finalists from these Compétences Québec, they move on to Skills Canada and to World Skills. And we happen to have 13 students from the province of Quebec moving on to the World Skills. And one of them is from Riverside School Board in Brick Lane. Yeah. So that's very also, well, very interesting. Imagine international recognition. This person, the group, the 13 of them are going to Lyon in France, you know, so it's going to be a fantastic experience. And as we were saying earlier, in Europe, the trades, you know, you're basically, you have a little bit of a path to do after high school. You can't even move on, I think, to the cégep level or to the college level until you've done this little trades thing in between. And then you move on to the higher education or remain as a tradesperson. So we've got a few things to learn.
I can add what I find really cool about the Compétences Québec and the Skills Canada competition. If anyone's, I've never seen them. I've just been sent videos of them all the time. But like, it's like an Olympic ceremony.
Absolutely.
It's enormous.
It's
just like these kids and adults, like I call them kids, they're adults, but they're treated like at the highest level when they're trained. Like it's absolutely, really an impressive event.
Competition,
like Brick Lane. The guy has now won the Brick Lane for the province of Quebec, actually Canada. And it must be in their technique, it must be in the rapidity, it must be in the finishing of the product.
They're given specific things that they have to ensure. Like I think there was like a certain wall you needed to build, and you had to ensure that there were certain angles that you use, and certain like there's like a list of things you have to ensure.
A bunch of tasks.
There's a
so like all the trades.
Like, all the trades. So like
it's in usually in the province of Quebec. It's in Quebec City every second year. It's every second year. So it's just the ceremony in Quebec City is interesting.
It's like
so imagine when they go to the Canada skills trade, and then when they go to the world skills trade, it's totally amazing.
Yeah, this coming year in Lyon, but 2000. Did they have 22? I don't remember. What standing?
The next one is 2025. 2025 is the next Compétences Québec.
Okay, well, one of the ones just previous to Lyon was in Brazil. So they're all over the world, and they're and it's
so it's you know the trades rule the world. That's going to be my T-shirt. If you go on to Compétences Québec, there's all sorts of information, all sorts of videos, all sorts of interviews with the younger people, and it's not always just the young people. It's some people have come back and we're finding out a trade after searching and
except for World Skills.
Yeah. World Skills, you have to be under.
You take candidate under 25.
Yeah. So it is for younger people.
He's 19 years old. Yeah. And the others that had qualified were not because of their age.
So you can compete. Any age can compete to a certain level. What level?
Level?
Just a provincial level. But then after the provincial level,
it gets.
But it's still super fun to do. You know.
So we are connected to business. All of the school boards have a service aux entreprises. The common acronym in French is SAE, the Service aux Entreprises. In its business services. In our school boards, every business services has a name. They've named their service to help industry. So they work in partnership with Formation Québec en Réseau. So that's the French sector, open to offering training to whoever needs it in whatever sector. And then if they can help organize it, well then we're in partnership with them, so we get referred to like people who need training. We could be referred in because they're in our region. So we're the ones who get the reference to see if we can develop it for them or offer it to them. So it's partnerships. It's never alone. I had never seen the English and the French sector working so well together in my entire career in the last 5 to 7 years. It's just partnership. It's nothing to do with les Anglais. Because that's when I first arrived in education in 1984. There was a big thing about the English and the French. in 1984, and now it's partnership. We have to train people. We all need each other. Let's all work together. We're working with Corrections Canada as well. I mean, it's just a partnership. It's just Corrections Canada, is the federal. If they need people for English or for French, they're going to go to whoever it is. So it's a wonderful time to be in the world of vocational, but business services. It's great. These are the different school boards that all have their services entreprise. So this is like the name, I just saw Chuck was here today. So Chuck was here for the New Frontier School Board. And they call this at the Sir Wilfrid Laurier School Board, they call it Services aux Entreprises Qualification. So everybody has their little name. They're all working already, whether it be whatever training, You have to sometimes have access to the permanent authorization to be offering some of the training, but we get around with that, becoming a partner with one of our English school boards. Proceed, I don't know if you know Proceed, but Proceed is the grouping of the vocational and adult education sector. It's a group of service directors, it's all the school boards together, and they meet on a regular basis to discuss issues. It could be anything, like whatever is positive, whatever is negative, to make sure that the Anglophone are all getting what they need. Exclusively adult and vocational. So there's another level for the youth sector, but not for the adult sector. So it's a vibrant little world. It's always something new. I don't know if you have heard does anybody know Charbel Mourad? So Charbel Mourad is a consultant who has been hired by the school boards, and over the last few years, he's the one who created the partnership with Formation Québec Réseau. He's the one who makes sure that the ministry knows that we need this or that, the school daycare educator, we need our money, and he's the one fighting for that. So he was hired by Proceed to make sure that the English school boards are getting their fair share and getting the visibility that they should get. And next week there's an event that is historical. The CSMO, the CSMO, Comité Sectoriel de la Main-d'Œuvre. So there are different CSMOs for different industry,
hotel tourism. There's
So there are different sectors that's recognized by the Quebec government, and they have always been working in collaboration with French school boards and Charbel Mourad, Sad. They should be working with us too. They didn't know us. So next week is a big journée réseautage networking session with the French sector, CSMO, and the English sector services. It's a big event. It was supposed to be just a little meeting. We've been working on it since April.
Yeah.
And it's turned into a happening. So I'm very proud of Charbel and all the work he's done. They've got different people in there that are going to be participating. There's going to be a World Cafe. There's going to be, more people. So you can find out what can the school board offer me. So they're going to have a little bit like a speed dating about something. So just to say, the Quebec government is, I am totally for protecting the French language in Quebec. I understand this, there's definitely doing that, but it doesn't always have to be with all of this, trying to push away something to make something else better. There's a way to do it in a collaborative move and with really excellent results. I'm pretty sure that next week when the Anglophones meet with the Francophone sector, they're going to be surprised at all the services that are offered. They've always worked with the French school boards, and now they're going to meet with us. It's amazing times, I would tell you. That's what I know. So this is it. So do you have any questions that have not been answered? Yes.
I have a very specific technical question. I'm going to take advantage while I'm here, okay? I'm very curious about the admission criteria for the shortened PAB or program. There is a line that says meet the definition of Emploi Québec. What does that mean? I tried to find what that is, and I cannot.
So sometimes the Ministère de l'Emploi has asked, Service Québec, they're receiving any kind of financing.
there are some criteria that are candidates.
Yes,
And that's for depending on the program, depending, like Pat right now, the CS actually interviews the people before they take training to see if they're a potential employee, before they even take it, they interview them. So they select them to put them in the program. For us, that's completely against any notion of anything that we've ever done. You take your person, you train the person, and then you interview them for a job, right? Well, now they're being interviewed for the job before they even take the training.
I just don't know what that means for us in terms of declarations for if we take students into the program. There's obviously no simulation that you can do. It's some sort of ethereal criteria that I would like to take advantage of.
Well, you know what, when it's a little iffy, I think school board stuff, this is our criteria, they try to validate it with everybody. If it's not quite it, but then they say whether or not, it depends who's financing, it always depends on who's financing. Right now, we don't have much to say about the personal care attendant, because the money is coming from the Ministry of Health. So if they're accepted, they have the last week, they had the Ministry of Education money, would be nuts. But now, right now, it's the Ministry of Health determining who can take the training. So we don't set the criteria.
Then how do you decide who you're taking into the program?
Well, we have a bunch of people who get in touch with us, say, I hear you're offering that program again, I'd love to be part of it. And then we take them, and we do the basic, do they have their degree, and do they have the basic requirements?
Yes.
Do they speak English and French?
But if they don't have if they don't have their set 3 GDT, can we take them in if they meet this criteria? Because the Cree don't access Emploi Quebec. It's not something, it's not within.
Nobody can't transmit a result if they haven't met the basic requirements.
I understand that I know. So I don't want to start a program and take people into it only to discover.
So you start doing TDVs all over the place. I don't know, you start doing things.
Yeah, that not all of them can do the GDT because their first language is Cree. So the GDT is
you might ask if that's the whole idea would be to get it available in Cree. I'm surprised it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, yeah.
But that's really more locally and depending on who's financing and like in school boards, we don't just do what we want to do. We look for a lot of things, especially defining which programs we want to offer. But that's not where it is. Yeah. I feel the control. I feel the control. I felt it over the last 3 years.
When more control, it was supposed to be different. When you do the Sunday service collect, it was supposed to be the opposite.
Yeah.
And finally trying to be more.
So thank you. Hope you have another ambassador for the campaign.
We already are.
Okay, you already work with it. All day, every day. Okay.